Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to another installment of Rebel Without Applause, coming to you, as I always do, from this, my nutshell of infinite space. By that, I mean my television studio apartment right here in the Wood of the Holly, under the sign overlooking the COVID-addled and shut down, but still somehow enchanted land of law. And with me today is, well, a very special guest. He is an icon in his own right. He is Thomas B. Kin Chong, otherwise known as Tommy Chong, formerly of Cheech and Chong, and one half of perhaps one of the greatest comedy teams of the American 20th century. And including in that list, you got to go the Smothers Brothers, Lewis and Martin, and Cheech and Chong right there at the top. He's with me here right now, courtesy of this little digital thread called Zoom. Tommy Chong, welcome. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Bill. That's a nice little clarinet there. You blow pretty good, huh?
I've had all this downtime in my life, unemployed time, screenwriting time, and I look across my room and there's that little licorice begging me for attention. So that's
nice. That's nice. No, you got a nice tone, and I love the clarinet. It was the hottest instrument back in the 40s, I guess, 40s, 50s.
Yeah.
What was Artie Shaw?
Artie Shashevsky became Artie Shaw, and Benny Goodman. Yeah, those guys were.
Shashevsky, was he Russian?
Yeah, right. All these
Artie
guys,
Shaw?
all the clarinetists were Jews except for Buddy DeFranco. He was Italian, but yeah, I was like Shashevsky.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
music, man. I mean, that's the eternal thing with us. Music. Yeah. I got a letter just today from a guy out of work, Navy vet, and he just sent me an empty envelope and asked me if I could. He couldn't afford to get a picture or something to send, and so he asked me if I could donate something, for him, and so I did. But it turns out he's a musician, and they do weddings. What do you call it? Wedding? Wedding entertainers. What's it called? The wedding.
Wait, with Adam Sandler did a movie about it. The wedding singer.
Yeah. Exactly. Wedding entertainers. Yeah, that's what him and his wife does. And the cool thing about this pandemic, it's giving everybody a taste of what it's like to be poor, because being laid off is nothing new for us poor people. Being laid off, being fired, but mostly being laid off, okay, this is your last week, this is your last day, you guys, thanks, but get out of here. Yeah, I've had that happen a few times,
Yeah.
And that's where music ended up being my savior, because it was the only thing I did for fun. And then eventually I started getting paid for it. And it was like, wow, this is pretty cool.
So that's how you started in show business. It was the guitar.
Yeah. It was was my guitar, my ability to back up singers. That was my secret, was having backing up a lead singer.
Uh-huh.
And I did that all my career. And even when I went solo, I ended up with Cheech. Right. And then after Cheech and I broke up, I ended up with my wife. I always need a partner, man. That's one thing about life, You can be a loner, but really, you're never a loner. You always got a partner, either on the stage with you or behind the stage, but somewhere there's a partner.
As a soloist, as a stand-up, my partner is the audience. It's certainly not the club owner. It's the audience.
Well, no, it's your club owner too, because he's the one that's paying you.
I know, but I don't like to look at him because those guys make me nervous. There's also the ones that are firing me. You know what I mean? The music journey starts in Calgary, right?
Yeah, I started in Calgary and started playing country music. And I was like hired. Well, I was 8 years old, and the fiddle player across the field from me, he needed a guitar player. His guitar player got a job or got left town anyway. And so he needed a guitar player, and he picked me because he could train me, and he did. Yeah, he showed me the chords to play and how he wanted to hear the back thing, and so he had me playing rhythm guitar, and there used to be a profession for all big band had rhythm guitar players. And it wasn't until I think around Nat King Cole era that the guys started soloing, playing solos with the guitar. Back in the day, they weren't electrified. And so it was like a standard guitar, Spanish guitar, and they would just be hammering out the rhythm. Later on, the drummer took over, but back in the old band days, the drums weren't, they never had the hi-hat cymbals. They had those funny little toy cymbals on the top of the big bass drum. And so the guitar player had to keep the tempo.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of like Chick Webb and Gene Krupa, those guys.
Yeah.
Might be the first generation of drummers that start to kind of peek out front.
I remember the big band days. In fact, when I put my band together, my first rock and roll band, rhythm and blues band, we had no band knowledge. Like when we would start a tune, we'd like punk rockers, we'd look at each other and say, ready? Okay. Then we'd start playing. There was no counting in. There was no musical, what chord are you in or anything. That was the only thing. What chord are we in? Because we're playing blues.
Right.
And so everything, it was 3 chords or 1 chord or 2 at most, maybe 4 at the most if you really stretched it. But when we went to take over, they had a summer dance hall in Calgary, in a park called Bowness Park. And for the longest time, they had a big band, playing In the Mood. Glenn Miller's In the Mood. That was the jive tune.
Right.
And then we come along with our rock and roll, and we took the gig away from him. And then the musicians union guy was right there. And he says, hi, I'm the musicians union representative. And we said, yeah, okay. How are you? And he says, now you guys are going to have to join the union. And I had no idea. I said, why? He said, well, because you're musicians and you got a gig. So I said, so why do we have to join the union? We got the gig. He said, well, and then the owner stepped in. He says, it's okay, I'll take care of this. And so the owner paid the dues, and that was my first taste of bureaucracy.
Showbiz bureaucracy. And so it starts in Calgary. I've been there.
Yep.
I did comedy there. I remember the beautiful Bow River winds its way through the town there, and it's filled with trout, and I love to fly fish. I actually caught a fish in the Bow River. I brought my rod when I had a gig there. And then it moves to, from Calgary, you go to the Pacific Rim. You're in Vancouver, right?
Yeah. We got kicked out of Calgary. Again, because I've always had a social consciousness. I got in trouble when I was about 15. Joyriding was called. In fact, a friend of mine stole a car, and I never rode in it. He stalled the car near my house, and so he called me up. He says, hey, I got a car. Oh, great. And it was the first one that he stole. And I went there to help him get it started, and the cops pulled up behind us, and so we ran to my house, and the snow had just fallen, so the tracks were real easy. And besides, the cops knew us anyway, and so the cop knocked on the door. My mom answered and tried to lie. I was, said, "Oh no, he's been here all night," and the cop said, "Yeah, right." And so anyway, they took us to jail.
Ooh.
I was 15 at the time. And I spent the night in jail. On the weekend, spent the weekend in jail. And then my dad bailed us out. And then we stood in front of the magistrate and got fined $100 each for joyriding. That was the charge. Because the car never went anywhere. We never, and my buddy, he had just taken it that far. Anyway, around that time, they start talking about, the lawyers start talking about things not, there's no recreation or nothing for teenagers my age to do. That's why they get in trouble. And it kind of resonated in my head. So when I put the band together, I had a friend whose dad ran the boys club. And so somebody mentioned, you should start your own club, teen club. And so we did. I started this, the Shades. The name of the band was the Shades. So I started the Shades Teen Club. And we started having dances every Saturday night in the middle of Calgary at the old Legion Hall. It's still there. It's a big old dance hall, and beautiful, beautiful. Back in the 40s, 50s, they had ballrooms everywhere,
right?
Because that was the exercise of the time. Everybody danced, and if you had a club or a hotel, you had to put a ballroom in. Because all the great palaces in Europe, they all had ballrooms where they all danced the waltz and the polkas and that. And so we we had this Saturday night dance. Only problem is because we played really earthy R&B, because we had, the band was mostly black, if not all black, except for me. Anyway, we attracted everybody. We had people coming 200 miles away to the dances. And the trouble is, it was around the Puritan laws, and so they closed everything down at midnight. And so we could only play till midnight. Now you got 200-300 kids there, adult teenagers and older, with nothing to do. And a lot of them are liquored up because that's what you did in Alberta in those days. And so they would spread around the city and
welcome once again to another installment of Rebel Without Applause, coming to you as I always do from this, my nutshell of infinite space.
Their parties and that. And so the cops and the mayor called us into the mayor's office, the chief of police. And we thought, we're going to get some award, for our teen club that's doing so well. They called us and they said it would be a good idea if you guys left town.
Are you kidding?
And again, instead of being upset, we said, okay.
Thank you. We were thinking about that ourselves.
Yeah, we went to Vancouver. That's where they had nightclubs that went, like all night. And so I got a gig playing there, and I played the gig, it was floor shows. We did a floor show, like a half hour, 30, 40-minute show with our band, because we're all very visual. And then after our gig, this guitar player hired me to play the booze cans. The booze cans were after hours private clubs. They were illegal, but they would rent a space, and all the hookers and would bring their johns and bring their guys in, and gamblers and all the hustlers and all the gangsters that would hang out there, and then I'd play guitar, backup a singer all night. So it was pretty exciting times.
Now, had you had any concept of comedians or Lenny Bruce, or where were you in terms of comedy in your thinking?
I was aware of Lenny Bruce because when I got turned on to pot when I was 17, the jazz bass player gave me a joint and a Lenny Bruce record. And that joint lasted me a month because I just take a hit and put it out and listen to Lenny Bruce. And that's really got a lot of my chops. I was into comedy before that because we'd found a Red Fox record in an army dump. We lived out in the country, and there was a dump where the army, a lot of army barracks and everything around there. And someone had thrown out a Red Fox record. So, of course, I'm a scavenger from way back. So I scavenged the record, brought it home, listened to Red Fox when I was really young. It was X-rated material.
Yeah.
Did you get turned on to Red Fox, his early stuff?
I'm aware of Red Fox because he was very big in Central Avenue in Los Angeles. Was the center of Black jazz life. A whole generation of jazz giants came out of there. And there were a few comedians as well, most prominent of which was, of course, Red Fox. Most people know him from Sanford and Son. So I don't think I ever heard his albums.
You got it.
He was wild from what I heard.
He was, I saw, I was on the Howard Stern show, a couple of years ago, and they played it back. And Howard asked me who was the greatest comedian of all times, and I said Red Fox, and they everybody said what? Yeah, because I saw Red Fox live. I saw all the good ones. I saw Richard Pryor, and I caught a little bit of Lenny Bruce. I couldn't afford to go into the club, so I went into the kitchen, and I heard Lenny through the kitchen in the back. And he did a set. But Red Fox, man, Red Fox was such a genius, because what he did, he told funny jokes, and then in between jokes, he would mention, he would do a little stream of consciousness about the political scene, about whatever was going on. But it always was funny. It was never, like a Dave Chappelle or Richard Pryor back, at the time, where they do commentaries. Red was back in the day where, almost minstrels, almost that time. And he played all black clubs. Right. There was a very, very, I don't think after Sanford and Son, he went to, he got booked in Vegas thinking they were getting Sanford and Son. And then the word got out, that no, this isn't Fred Stanford. This is Red Fox. And Red Fox, man. Anyway, I saw him in Detroit, and at the very height, before Stanford. Wait. This is 67. Yeah, it was 1967. I went to a club with my first wife, Maxine, and she's black. And so when we sat there, Red, I had a little goatee at the time. And Red walks out, he looks at me, he's, you're fighting back, are you? Goatee. And he did 2 hours. Oh my God. The first hour, he had the people laughing so hard, you're falling out of their chairs, literally. Then he got so gross that people were running out of the club. They were leaving the club, and he would open the door for them. He'd say, "Yeah, thanks for coming. Thank you, very good, thank you." And he'd close the door, and then he went. Then he got back on stage, and he did another hour where he brought the crowd back up. I've never seen that ever with any. Well, the closest I've ever seen that was Steve Martin. Steve Martin could take an audience and take them out for hamburgers,
right? Yeah,
and then bring them back and then entertain them some more. I mean, I've seen Steve Martin do that, but nothing like Red Fox, where they were joke after joke after joke, and they got funnier and funnier and funnier. And as far as I know, he never had writers. He was ghetto. And when Cheech and I started, because I'd played music, in those black clubs, I knew a lot of them knew me. And so when Cheech and I started as comedians, we would get on my little Honda 90 scooter, and we'd go to the black clubs, and where they would pay us. It wasn't an open mic night. We would go on, do our show, and we get paid. Not much, 25, 30, $50, something like that.
Yeah, what's that place on Crenshaw Boulevard? It just closed down. Oh God, I did comedy there. So you really got to break in the black venues.
What's the name of that place on the last one of the last clubs?
Yeah.
What was it called?
Coyotes or I don't know, not that. It was
no,
it's like it's still there, but it's been closed for a couple of years. I drive by.
Yeah. Well, the black clubs, then it had a resurgence around Richard Pryor. After Richard Pryor, then all the black clubs started doing, wall-to-wall comedy.
Yeah.
It was just pure comedy.
Robin Harris down at the Comedy Act Theater.
Harris.
I worked with him down at the Comedy Act Theater in Leimert Park. And I was the one white guy in the bill. And I do remember my opening line. It was packed. It was a happening night. And I said, well, now I know how Jackie Robinson felt. And then, bam, I was in. And then I'm here on an equal opportunity grant. bam, I'm in, because I'm like, I'm this suburban white guy. What can I do? I can't help it. I'm sorry. But it was so welcoming, so fun. And Robin just took off. I mean, the laughter in those clubs was so different than the laughter in the Hollywood clubs, which was constrained and like, is this funny? Okay, ha ha ha. But down in the hood, it was a totally different vibe, uncensored. I don't mean the comedians, I mean the audience didn't censor their joy and just the excitement. It was thrilling.
Well, if you can entertain a Black audience, when Cheech and I started, we used to work at PJ's. Do you remember PJ's on Sunset? Anyway, it was on Santa Monica and Fairfax.
Okay.
Around there, and it was a rhythm and blues club owned by gangsters, and they loved Cheech and Chong, man. And they would rob themselves literally if they had a good night. They would have a good night. Oh, they would get robbed. Some guy would tie up the janitor, and make it look good, and then it would hit the papers. Oh, they got robbed again. They kept getting robbed, and but we played PJs, and we opened for the Jazz, like Cannonball Adderley and
oh my God,
and all those groups. Now, when we would walk on stage, all the pimps and all the high roller Black guys, they would turn their backs on us. They were too cool to be listening to two dudes, that weren't Black. But by the time we were into our second bit, the girls would tell the guys to turn around. Listen, these guys are funny, because we could entertain anybody, especially the Black audiences. No, BJ's was funny, man. I think about it. Yeah. And one time and they would sell the club. They would sell it. This is your new owner.
Oh yeah, there's just cash flowing.
and the guy would come in there. And one guy felt sorry for the guy, because he was the new owner. And so I took him aside, and I tried to tell him what was going on, and save your breath, dude. Those guys are so stupid, anyway, I'm lucky I didn't get in trouble for it, because had the guy said anything to the boss, the gangsters would have been looking at me, telling me to shut the fuck up. Yeah, that was back, before comedy clubs, before comedy stores, before any of that.
Yeah, that was a different scene. I mean, I remember the Horn was a popular place before the Comedy Store, before Bud Friedman landed in La and Mitzi and all these clubs. Comedy got ghettoized. It got separated from the musicians. And I thought it suffered a little bit for that, because it was just comedian after comedian after comedian after comedian at the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory. It just became its own ghettoized thing. You had the benefit of doing it before that happened, or getting started before that.
Yeah. Well, the great benefit is, especially with music, because the comedy was a relief, to the music, and it added. It was like the thing that you eat in between courses of meals, to clean the palate.
Yeah.
And that's and put you in a good mood too. Yeah. You could be in a pissed off mood, but you see a comedian, and next thing you know, you're laughing and you're happy. And that makes it for a good audience for music. And it was always something to look forward to,
Yeah.
Because the thing is, that drove me nuts with the disco era, and it never stopped.
It was relentless.
The music would just go and go and go. See, back in the day, you had a system where it was silent. Like when the band would finish a tune, sometimes they would stop for a few minutes.
Yeah, take a break.
Yeah, and so everything would stop, and you'd lead your lady back to the table, or you would have a conversation, or you order food, or you could do things where you could talk and relate. But then all of a sudden, when the disco era came in, man, oh shit! I went to Club 54, all those disco places in New York. Right. I hated them, man. There was nothing in there.
Yeah, I hated that. Yeah.
Yeah. All you go in there, and all they want to do is take your money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here. Who's paying for this wine? and you couldn't sit at tables.
Yeah, it was gross.
And when I started dancing salsa, when I learning how to dance salsa, my wife and I, wherever we would go, we would find a club where we could dance, And I was in a club in Rome, in Italy, and there's an empty table, and we were there early. I sat down, my wife sat down. The records are playing. We get up and dance a little bit, and then the waiter come over and says, "I'm sorry, you can't sit here." It's why, it's tables reserved for people that are going to spend a lot of money.
Not just have a good time.
No, it's just they're there to rake in the dough. They got these very wealthy people coming to these discos and that. No, everything changed, man. Instead of going to discos, I'd hang outside with the bakers. A lot of the bakers out there, baking, and I'd study them. They work in pairs. And I didn't know it at first, but the car would pull up and some old ratty old drunk would come up and start hitting on these people. Hey, give me some money. Money. And then his partner would come up and grab the guy and say, you. I told you before, get the hell out of here. Go on. And he'd shoo the guy away. And then they would be very thankful, and then they would give the guy some money, Oh, thanks, man. Here, and they had a little system. So one time a guy stiffed him, and he never gave him any money for shooing the guy away. And as the guy walked away, he says, "I don't need your money anyway. Look," and he pulls out a wad of money. He makes hundreds of dollars out there, and he showed the guy. He says, See, yeah, you think you're something, look at this.
Question for you. How did you guys, when you hooked up with Cheech, I guess in Canada, you come down to LA, it's the early mid 60s. How did you sort of find that comedic gold with cannabis, with pot, the counterculture? How did that feedback loop start going for you guys as a comedian, where you realized, yeah,
the audience really dictated, how audiences dictate what you're going to do, we were we had started in a strip joint, and so with strippers, as actresses, and so we had a shitload of dirty jokes, like double entendre jokes and dick jokes and all kinds of sexy jokes, and then we ended up in a club here in the Valley, and we got booked. The guy really liked us, and so he booked us in there, and it's a dance club. It's not a comedy club, it's a dance club. And so in order for us to do comedy, the dancers had to stop, sit down, and take a seat and watch comedy. And so the first show was pretty bad. We never got the laughs that we usually get. And so Cheech and I are in the dressing room, and so I said, "Cheech, come on, man, we need something that these people can relate to." And he was born and raised right in the Valley, in LA anyway. And so I said, "You're from here, man. There must be a character that we can do that these people relate to." And she said, and he denies it now, but he literally said, yeah, there is one, but what? I said, "But what?" He said, "Yeah, I hate to do it." I said, "Why?" He said, "Kind of detrimental, to the culture, Chicano culture." I said, "Well, we're comedians, man. That's our job. That's what we're here to do."
Yeah.
And so he said, "Oh, okay." And so I said, "What's the character?" He says, "It's a lowrider." And I said, "What's a lowrider?" And so he explained to me, he said, "Remember that dude we were standing out of the club, I think earlier that day or that week, and this Chicano and the lowrider pulled up in the car. He goes, 'Hey, man, can you tell us how to get to Van Nuys Boulevard?' And she says, 'You're on it.' And the guy goes, 'Oh, okay, thanks a lot, man.' And he drove away. and she says, 'That's the guy.' I said, 'Okay.' And so we wrote a bit. I said, 'Okay, now here's a bit, I got from the black comics. One of the bits that they used to do, the black comics they would pretend they had a car. They would fake, mime a car, dusting off the car and cleaning out the windshield and spitting on it and cleaning out the windshield and, and opening the door and dusting off the car, and then get in the car and then drive away and then pick up a date, and he'd pick up a date by blowing the horn. And then the husband or the dad would appear. and it's very funny. It's all pantomime. And so I showed Cheech how to pantomime a car. And so then we came up with the lowrider bit where Cheech, he has Up in Smoke. That whole Up in Smoke montage of him polishing the car, getting in the car. And,
with the dance. That was funny in front of the house.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what he did, and at first he just polished the car and then you see a car and then he gets in and I'm hitchhiking. Hey, Red Freak, you want to ride, man? So then I would come out all stoned and get in the car, and, real slow. And then all of a sudden he'd take off real fast. And I'd be sitting there with eyes, and so how far are you going, man? I say, hey, the end of the block's fine, man. And,
it was PCH.
And as soon as we did that bit that night, I heard something in the audience that I'd never heard before. And it was like, it wasn't a pushover audience. This was a tough audience. And when we did that bit, they loved it. And that was it. As soon as we discovered that character, it was just a matter of time, because then we went to the committee and I stole a lot of bits from the committee, borrowed them more than stole them, Well, no, actually we stole them because we used them. They were our bits.
You didn't return them.
No, and we didn't stop doing them.
Yeah.
And what killed me is that people would steal off us thinking they were stealing Cheech and Chong bits, but they were really stealing committee bits.
So you tapped into this sort of East LA lowrider stoner kind of, and that was, I don't recall anybody else in that space comedy wise at all,
No, we had it all along. In fact, we encouraged all the, the Chicano Latino comics after that, Lopez and
Paul Rodriguez,
all those guys.
Yeah.
They came after Cheech and Chong.
Yeah.
We showed them that Cheech and Chong could do that. This is before the movies,
Right.
This is when we were just had the records. Yeah. We put the Chicano comedian on the map.
You did.
We were the first.
Right. Now, how did Lou Adler find you, or you find Lou Adler?
Well, we started doing open mic night at the Troubadour. It was a hootenanny night. And we went there and found out that you had to sign in, to go on. You had to sign in. And like if you're the first to sign in, you got to go on sixth. That was the ideal time to go on. You go on any earlier, there's nobody in the club hardly.
Right.
But number 6 was the spot to have the headline. You had to be there at when the box office opened, which was 6:00. And so, I've been doing this for forever. So I knew that we had to stand in line. We had to be there early. And so we would get there about 9:00 in the morning at the Troubadour, and we would literally stand there, take turns, but stand there and wait until the box office opened. And the minute the box office opened, then we'd put our name down and then we would perform. And but we got so popular that after a while we didn't have to stand in line or anything. They would phone us. They were phoning me and saying, "Are you guys coming tonight?"
Yeah.
Because it was every Sunday. And so we became a regular at the Troubadour. And then one time, Warner Brothers, I think it was Ted Templeman, he wanted to see our act. And so he arranged, with the Troubadour that he was going to be there. Well, Lou Adler never wanted to have his own showcase, He kind of sat in on Ted Templeman's showcase, and he saw us. And Cheech knew a girl that knew Lou, And after the show, it was Dinah Shore's daughter.
Oh, okay.
She told Cheech that Lou Adler really liked us and that he would like to talk to us. And so, and that was the night that Frank Zappa came down and saw us too.
Oh my God.
I'll never forget that. And Zappa was not friendly at all. Now, Cheech and him become friends later, But at that time, we were the new kid on the block, and Zappa had to come down to see this new kid on the block, and he was not happy because after the show, he never walked over and said, "Hey, congratulations," nothing like that. We were walking behind him and his manager, Herbie Cohen, and Cheech. I just yelled up, "Hey, Herbie!" And so Herbie saw us stop, and that's when we met Frank Zappa. But he was kind of cold. He was not impressed. But then later, Cheech put in his book that Frank was a big fan. But then Cheech told me, by the way, Lou Adler saw us, and I said, "Who's Lou Adler?" And he said, "The record producer. He wants to see us." I said, "Oh, okay." So we went down and we met with Lou, and Lou's in his office, in a little office in A&M, and got gold records around, Carole King records, and Lou says, "So." Lou was very, man of few words. He was never been Mr. Small Talk. It was strictly business. And so he says, "So what do you think? What do you guys want?" And I says, "Well, we could do a comedy record." And he said, "Great. What do you need?" And I said, $1,000. And then Cheech says, "Well, actually, $2,000." And so he wrote it. Oh, and I said, in a little tape recorder, a little portable tape recorder. And Cheech says, "What's that for?" I said, "To rehearse." And she, "Oh, okay." So we got the money, went home, told the wives, everybody's happy. We could finally move and get a decent place. And so we went to rehearse with the little tape recorder.
Yeah.
And we made history. Rehearsing with that the first bit and the only bit we ever rehearsed became our biggest hit. It was that "Dave's Not Here."
Now, did you record the album in a live venue, or did you do it?
No. It was all in a studio.
Oh.
And that's what I'm saying. We were in a studio, so we went to a little mix-down room where we were rehearsing. And Cheech got on his costume. He's a method player. He has to get into costume, get into character. And he went outside of the mix-down room, and it was really hot. Oh, it was burning. It was like, 100 degrees at least. And it was the middle of summer. Oh, it was September, I think it was. And anyway, he knocked on the door, and I'm supposed to open the door. But I was trying to work the tape recorder and figure out the bit, too. We hadn't rehearsed a bit. I was just going to open the door and let him in, and then we'd work out a bit. So he knocked on the door, and I couldn't see if the tape... I looked up, and I looked away from the tape recorder. And so it took a while, So he knocked again. And so I said, "Who is it?" And then he said, "It's me, man. I got the stuff." And so I paused. Instead of opening the door, I paused. And I was looking at the tape recorder, trying to figure out if it was working or not. Then he knocked again. And then I kind of got the idea. And so because the worst thing you can do to anybody is just be so stupid. That the guy, that's an acting, I found out later it was an acting exercise. So he knocked again, and I said, "Who is it?" and you could hear in his voice, "It's me, man. Come on. Open the door. It's hot out here."
So funny.
So I just waited. He knocked again. I said, "Who is it?" And this time, Cheech got the idea. "It's me, Dave. Now open the door, man." And I said, "Dave?" He said, "Yeah, Dave." Then I said, "Dave's not here." He lost it, man. We never did keep the original, but he said, "Come on, man, quit fucking around. Open the door. It's me. It's hot out here, man. Come on." He's banging. I opened the door, and he came in. He started throwing his stuff off. He's sweating. He's a mess. And he's ready to hit me. He's ready to punch me. And I said, listen. So I played it back. Well, we laughed so hard. We kept playing it over and over again. Every time we played it back, it got funnier and funnier and funnier. And so then Cheech took it and played it for everybody. Cheech is one of those show everybody. And so Lou said, "Oh, well, you got to record this." So we go into the studio, and Lou's the producer, and we got everything that we need, like music, and then so we do "Dave's Not Here," and boom, we got it recorded in like 2 minutes. And we got the whole studio, and we're paying for a studio for at least an hour. And so we had to come up with some more bits, So I come up with Blind Melody Chitlin. I think that was the only other one we did. But then I told Lou, I said, we don't need all this expense, We really don't need a producer either, Just all we need is a little mix-down room and a tape recorder, a recorder and an engineer. Just give us an engineer. And so we recorded all our albums after that with just Cheech and I and the engineer. And he would come on the road with us because after we started doing albums, man, we'd finish one and next thing you know, we got to do another one. Oh, and then another one.
So and
another one. I mean, they just kept, we did nine altogether. 8, I would say, top of the line. The 9th, it was a little, wasn't as memorable. Right. Well, we'd run out of stuff, almost,
That's hilarious. Very few people remember Lou Adler or think of Lou Adler as a movie director, but he directed Up in Smoke. What was that like?
As a movie director?
Yeah.
Well, to begin with, I wanted to get off the road. And so after our third visit to Australia, and then they wanted us to go again. And it was such a hassle because you had to write a new show. Yeah. All that pain that comes with that. And then you're traveling, you're doing the new show. And then, it just got old. And so, and then you're missing summer because we'd go there when it was their winter, and then we come back here when it was our winter, and we go back there their winter, and so we missed like 3 summers in a row. And so I started writing a movie with this other friend of mine, Joel Asker. We wrote a movie called Jack and the Weedstock, which is basically more of an animated movie, but I was intending to do it with Cheech and Chong. And then Lou made us a movie deal, but Lou wanted to do Cheech and Chong's greatest hits, to put our album bits in there, because he owned the albums. But then during the writing, of the movie, I wrote a song called Up in Smoke. And then she said, "Oh, that's the title of the movie." And then Cheech and I talked, we said, the movie, we should do our 2 iconic characters, the Pedro and Man characters. And so then we start writing that. I start writing out the thing. The way we worked, I would take notes, basically, list important things, write that down, write some dialogue. But mostly for Cheech and I, I'd just have to write a few lines, and then we get the idea, and then we would ad-lib or create the rest on the set. But the movie was new to us, and so we were going to get a director. And so we asked, or Lou asked Rob Reiner. And Rob Reiner turned it down because of our connection with the committee, because he's friends with all the committee and they hated us. And then Floyd Mutrick's name came up because he had done American Graffiti. And so Floyd came on board, but, we were, directors are like gods. You don't question them. They tell you. And we don't work that way, and Floyd started writing his own comedy, he thought was comedy. And he wrote this bit about it's basically a shitstorm with trailers or something. Anyway, it was just terrible. It was nothing Cheech and I would do, And so we fired him too. And then Lou Adler said, well, Paramount would be really comfortable if he directed, Lou Adler. And we said, perfect, because then basically I directed it.
Right.
And that's the way it was, because I added a lot of bits in Up in Smoke that were never in the script. The script really was us getting deported, and then coming back with a car made of marijuana.
Yeah, that was so funny. The truck.
Yeah.
What's his name? What was the guy?
Stacy Keach.
Stacy Keach. Yeah. He was funny in that. One of the things that struck me watching the beginning of the movie is that I said, wait a minute, he's from a wealthy family. Your character was from a wealthy family.
Yeah.
And you meet this lowrider guy from East LA, and your parents are like, I don't know, kind of waspy, stuck up country clubs.
Jewish. We never
Yeah.
we never mentioned it, but Strother Martin, my dad was a Jew.
Yeah.
And and so and Edie, who was married to Ernie Kovacs, I don't know what she was. She was my mother.
Right.
I guess she was waspy. I'm not sure, but yeah, that was the whole point of the rich and poor. Always,
Right.
yin and yang. Cheech comes from a very Latino, Chicano, lowrider thing.
Yeah.
And I'm from this wealthy family that takes a Rolls Royce grill off and puts it on my Volkswagen.
Yeah, I love that. That was like, it's like I kind of forgot that. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
Because to me, what animates so much of your career and Cheech and Chong is this fantastic cross-cultural enterprise that your life is. Starting in Calgary, your parents, all this interracial activity, which to me is what's so beautiful about LA, is this melange of cross-cultural exploration. It's layered in there, it's in that movie, and it's really cool. It's even in the beginning.
Oh, we had to because that was our whole point. Cheech and Chong. I mean, just us getting together was the whole thing of the Chicano and the showing off the Latino culture. The Chicano culture. Back in the day, if you had a headband, you were a gang leader. And you're always killing someone, or in the movies. They always showed us. And like the Chinese, remember the Chinese were kind of typecast all the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Remember Charlie Chan and all that. Oh, you bet. They all that stereotype bullshit. And so and then I wanted to make a statement with marijuana that for the most part it's harmless and it's used by musicians to get in a good mood to play good music.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, you were ahead of your time in many ways. Well, we have this in common. We both went to Taft. I went to Taft High School in the Valley for 3 years, and you went to Taft in the Central Valley for like 9 months. So we always have that bond.
I went to the college. I went to Taft College.
Yes.
Where I studied desert.
Exactly.
Desert living.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved Taft. It's closed, did I tell you?
No.
Yeah, Taft got closed down. My wife and I think it's because it was built over a toxic waste dump.
Oh my God.
And so they had a thing called Valley Fever, and prisoners were dying by the dozens in Taft itself. And all the employees that worked there, all of them, they're all the ones that were there when I was there, most of them are gone, if not all of them, dead from cancer. And so it was a very toxic place. I got prostate cancer.
I know.
That's where I got prostate cancer,
Really?
while I was in Taft.
So was it in the air?
I think it's in the air. I think it's everywhere. What it was where they kept the oil. When they found the oil.
Yeah, that here is big
in
oil.
Taft. They had no way to cap it, And so they strike oil, and the oil would just come out of the ground. And so they dug a big trench, a big pond, lake basically, and filled up with oil. And then what they would do, they would dip the oil drums into the oil, fill them up that way, and then ship them by truck into Long Beach to the refinery. And so when they finished that oil well, they ended up building a prison over top of the land because it's very toxic.
There's that oil well that's decorated right next to Beverly Hills High School.
Yes.
And a very dear friend of ours, he got Hodgkin's disease, and they traced a whole cluster of that problem, that medical problem, to kids in that high school.
Yeah. Well, look at 90210, the actors.
Yeah.
They're dying.
Same thing.
Yeah. It's not, that toxic waste dump, man. That's crazy. That's why oil was so far down. We're not supposed to be using all that oil that's down that far. It's not ready. The stuff that bubbles up, okay, you can use that, for whatever. That's okay. It's not going to kill you. That's why we have the pandemic, to stop the global warming, which is caused by automobiles, the cars burning fossil fuel. And it's got to the point where nature has to lay a pandemic on the humans to stop us, in our tracks, so that the earth can heal itself. And then they come up with electric cars. See this little electric car here. It's a pipe. It's going to be a symbol of that I'm going to use. Make necklaces of them. This is a symbol of how the electric car will save our planet.
Our planet will probably survive. Humanity is an open question. Also, our abuse of animals is at the core of this virus too, because after all, it took a leap, from animals, and we've been abusing them.
Yeah. Oh, everything. I mean, abusing our own food supply with the insecticide. The thing is, you don't kill living things to make a profit to grow other things. I mean, like the weed, the marijuana. Yeah, when I grow a crop, 20-30% of it goes to nature.
Right.
The bugs, the moths, and that they're just eating it.
Yeah,
they're not out to spoil my livelihood.
No,
they're eating. It's their food.
Right. And you're
so you give it to them. That's what tithing is. You say, okay, that's your share. Okay. And sometimes a lotus will come and take the whole crop. Okay, so they needed it. And that was it, And so you plow it under it, because that's the beauty of where we live, is that it's never stopping. I got a kumquat tree here. Without fail, there's little buds that turn into fruit that eventually rot and dry and fall to the ground. Or eaten. We got all sorts of birds and animals come over to eat off this kumquat tree. But every year, without fail, it's budding now. I mean, and that's the planet we live on. There's enough for everybody. But when you get greedy and you try to take it all for yourself, like the farmers in California, where they're giant farms,
monoculture, one crop, just no diversity.
Forever. And it's all about money.
Yeah, no diversity. I mean, that cuts to the core tragedy in America, which is the mono agriculture of cotton, which became slavery, which became civil war, which became 150 years of subjugation for Black people. You can trace it to an abuse in agriculture.
Cotton. Yeah, think about it. It was for people to wear.
Right. We're wearing it now. Yeah,
for people to wear.
Yeah,
and just like they got rid of the hemp plant. The hemp plant was the perfect plant, and then they got rid of it because they wanted to put plastic in its place. And now we got a big plastic problem.
Yeah,
but it's going to change. We're going to go back. We're going to go back to the hemp products and that. Yeah. No, but these are things that we have to learn. And I think the zillionaires and the people with all the money, they've got a bigger burden. It's up to them. They got the money. It's up to them. What do they want to do? Do they want to help their fellow man, or do they they want to be the only one left on the planet?
Yeah. How fun will that be? Yeah. Well, you were definitely at the point of the spear understanding this. The country's catching up to Cheech and Chong and Tommy with regards to, marijuana. As a matter of fact, when I opened my computer up this morning and the Yahoo page is the default thing on my Safari, there's a Tommy Chong click through to a very interesting story, which I read the whole thing about, this CBD, right? This ointment.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great? Oh man, we're in all the Walmarts. We're in so many big places. We're going to be, we are raking in some sizable numbers, and it's like it's just beginning. It's just beginning.
I know. That's like, I mean, I don't know how many clicks or whatever that is, but it's got to be gazillions that are clicking through to that.
It touches everybody. CBD can be taken and used by everybody for everything. I use it for shampoo. I just put a little bit in my shampoo, and I went to a dermatologist a couple of years ago now. But she told me, what are you doing? She would give me an examination. I had some skin problems from doing too much testosterone. And so I stopped that, and then she changed my diet. But she says, have you suffered some kind of accident or something tragic, or something happened to your like stress? I said, why? She goes, you're growing new hair follicles.
Can I get a referral?
Margaret Olson, that's her name. Margaret Olson.
I could use
anyway,
a few more.
she said, what are you doing? And the only thing I could think of was that I'm doing a CBD shampoo. That's the only thing I could think of.
Interesting.
And for some reason, and then I went to another place, some beauty award show, and the guy gifted me a helmet. I don't have it here, but it's a helmet that you put on your head,
Mm-hmm.
and it's ultra lights, and it stimulates the hair follicles too. And so yeah, my hair is a little thin on top, but
you got me beat.
I had my wife had a kid, and then I got a text from a fan saying, I want to have hair like Tommy Chong when I'm his age.
Yeah. I guess it's a supplement, right? Does the FDA have any supervision over that? What space does those products live in?
It's definitely not a drug. No, it doesn't have any THC in it. It's just CBD. It's what stops a lot of problems with people. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly why it works, but I do know that marijuana or cannabis affects the brain. And it's my layman's theory that when the brain is calm, the rest of the organs work much better, because we're fight and flight creatures. We either fight, adrenaline gives us the strength, or we run. And again, the adrenaline gives us the strength. But when we're in that state, everything else gets suspended. Your circulation gets suspended. Your breathing gets shallow. Everything like that happens. And so when you're dealing with stress, or you're dealing with memories, sad or frightening or even exciting, it affects the body. Your internal organs either shut down or they operate at less capacity than what they should. But if you calm the mind, that's why they put people into comas. Induced comas,
right? So
that the mind is not interfering with any of the healing process, mm-hmm. by thinking the worst of the worst, or by being paranoid, or by all these things that would cause your body to react in an alert way, like putting too much adrenaline into you. That's why people can't sleep sometimes, because they'll think of what they got to do tomorrow or something and get all excited, and the body gets all revved up and now they can't sleep. Mm-hmm. And so the CBD calms all of that to the point where people take it for a sleep aid. Mm-hmm. It's really good. People take my strips, the CBD, THC strips. Now they'll get you in a nice mellow high. Like you don't know why you're feeling good, but you're feeling good,
Mm-hmm. You helped me some years back. I don't know if you remember, we were at a game and I was either just trying to recover or on my way to a back surgery, and you gave me these edibles, and it was just like, I remember I went home, okay, try this. And I'm like, nothing. About 40 minutes later, I went, fuck, I'm better. and then my head's screwed on pretty tight. It's just me. And then all of a sudden I'm better, but I'm flying too. Like I was a powerful experience for me. I called a friend. I go, I can't get off the friggin' floor, but my back doesn't hurt.
Yeah, it's a miracle, and that's what people are finding out all over the globe. Mm-hmm. We're in Switzerland now. We're in Germany. We're in the UK. With the CBD, all CBD products, and eventually it'll be THC too. Eventually, we'll break through the barrier, especially with the new guys coming in. Trump is
not the Ashcroft and Buchanan administration that you had an interesting bout with. I had an opportunity
Yeah.
to check out your documentary too, aka
Oh
Tommy.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
there. It's great.
Isn't
And
it funny? Isn't it funny? Like it was Bush and Ashcroft that had me incarcerated, but at least they didn't want to kill me.
yes,
You
actually,
know?
Trump makes Bush look like Lincoln. I swear. I mean,
Oh, even Bush said that.
he
Bush said
said
that.
it.
Yeah, that boy make me look pretty good, ain't he?
For comedians, Trump has like offered me a care package every day in front of my door that I can't even open. There's so much. It's like having a subscription to the New Yorker. You can't keep up. It'll
Yeah.
be interesting for us if we have the discipline going forward to put him in the rearview mirror and let him dissolve like that witch in The Wizard of Oz, right into nothingness.
Well, what'll happen, and this is, we've heard his act. We know the act. You know, it's the same thing that happened to Dice Clay. You know, Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah, his friend.
You know,
yeah, no.
everybody heard his act. Okay, now you're not shocked anymore. And so I met Andrew not too long ago, and you know, he's struggling because, you know, once you get that tag, you get that jacket, that's it. You know, you can't run away from it. You know, nobody can. You know.
I can tell you.
And that's what happened to Sam Kinison.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Sam was a beautiful friend of mine. You know, he loved me so much. It was embarrassing. I got to tell you, first time I met Sam, you know, of course, he grew up with Cheech and Chong, you know. And so when he heard I was trying to do stand-up, he heard I was at the Laugh Factory. And so, so Sam comes over from the Comedy Store to the Laugh Factory. Well, Jamie did not like Sam because, if anything, the Laugh Factory was anti-Sam. You know, it was a place where you could go where you wouldn't meet a Sam Kinison. Yeah. And so I'm over there waiting to do my 5 minutes. And so I did my 5 minutes.
At the factory.
At the factory, yeah.
Yeah.
I did my 5 minutes. I'm getting off the stage. Sam walks in. Hey, and then John, yeah, you know, he went crazy. So I didn't. So I said to Sam, I said, "Oh, are you going to do some time? You know, comedians. You know,
yeah, of course."
And Sam says, "For you, I'll do some time." So he gets on stage, and there's a guy on stage already. Sam walks up, takes the mic out of his hand.
Oh God, Jesus! I worked with them both.
Huh?
I worked with both of those guys, you know.
Yeah. Then he starts screaming at everybody, and people were leaving. Hey, don't walk out on me, you bad you. That was the funniest thing, and I don't even remember seeing Jamie. I think Jamie just went up to his office. No. Actually, as a matter of fact, we went up to Jamie's office with Sam, and we smoked up.
Really?
That's right. We went up to Jamie's office and we got high up there, and it was it was kind of a reunion for Sam because he'd known me, you know, and he was such a fan. And he would phone me. He'd be on the road. He'd phone me. Where are you? I'm over here. You know. And then I did a gig with him at New Year's with him and Pauly Shore and me and Tommy Chong.
At the club, at the store.
In Vegas.
Okay. The Dunes,
it was probably the Aladdin or one of those. I think it was the Aladdin. I think it was, yeah. And Pauly went on first, and then I came on, and then Sam came on. Yeah, I miss him, man. Well, when I heard that he died, I was on the road, and I heard that I couldn't believe it. And they kept playing the news, and I just couldn't believe it.
It was a fluky thing. I actually flew back from Vegas to LA with him. I mean, on a regular jet, but and he had just married this lady, Malika. Yeah. And 2 days later, he drives to Laughlin and he's killed.
2 days. Yeah.
It was like just like that. I mean, I said hi to him. My recollections of him was, you know, like I was not an entourage guy, so I wasn't going to hang in the Kinison crew. But, you know, I would see him all the time. And then I've one very specific memory of where I worked together with him at Cal State Northridge or Valley State or Cal State Northridge. And it was in like the student thing. And I don't know. I mean, I opened. He was not a huge star yet, but, you know, the fuse was lit. and it was going to go. And then I did great. I kicked ass. And then he went on, and it was like just something. It was on rocket fuel. He was fueled by something different than whatever I was fueled on. It was some cocaine hybridized rocket fuel, and it just I'd never seen anything. I mean, I'd seen him, so I knew, but it was just, it was very powerful. And then I have another recollection. I mean, I'm friendly with Dice. I mean, I don't talk to him, but I remember he and I had a booking in San Antonio, Texas, in a movie theater, converted, and we were in the airport, and he was wearing pajamas and shorts, and it was like he's talking about himself in the third person, and the Dice is going to be doing this, and the Dice is going to be doing that. And he, of course, also had not blown up, but his fuse was lit. And I thought, this guy's fucking insane. I don't know anybody who talks about himself in the third person. Within 6 months, everything he said had happened.
Yeah.
In terms of like the level of just explosiveness into the culture. I'd never seen anything. Well, both of those guys were different, in different ways. The thing I loved about Sam is that everything he did, especially in the beginning, felt honest. Like it was from this tortured place within his soul of a preacher's son in the Midlands of Texas, and this kind of insanity that was overwhelming him with women, and this primal scream felt real. Audiences connected with it.
Did you ever know Bill Hicks?
Yeah, from Texas. Similar. Yeah, I wasn't close to him, but I knew
him and Sam came up together. They worked the same clubs, and their acts were similar in a lot of ways.
Houston. Yeah,
in Houston. Yeah, Bill, he got cancer at the end of his life, and so he went on a barbecue tour where he would go to all these places and just eat barbecue.
Oh God, yeah. They grew out of the same soil. Those two grew out of the same soil.
So cool. Yeah, and I was working in, I think it was Oklahoma City actually. And Bill, no, it was Kansas City, the Stanford and Son club.
Famous.
And I was there, and Bill came to see me, and he watched the show, and then we talked a little bit, but he was definitely dying of cancer. But there was some cool times. I really treasure those stand-up years. Everything about it, being alone, on the road. And then that's why I finally talked my wife into coming on the road with me, because I've always had a partner.
Yeah.
Even if the partner's not on stage with me, when you walk off stage, it's nice to have someone, that you can hang with,
My feeling about that, having been on the road, of course, I did it in obscurity, relative obscurity, not famous, but you have that high of that performance. The women are looking at you while you're on stage, and they love you and they adore you, and people are laughing, and you're the center of attention. And then the show ends, and they go home, and you go to your room, or you drink, or to the bar, and I always
the mini bar,
right. And then I always felt like you're at the top of this roller coaster, and now they leave, and the roller coaster's going down, like, and it's every fucking night.
Then you're going back up again.
Back up, and then it's like, So
I was in a different space, because I had done Cheech and Chong, and so I had all that going for me. In fact, that kind of not stunted my growth, but it really accelerated my growth as a comedian, because I never had the luxury of like what you had, going through the stages, because when I went back on stage, next thing you know, I barely had 5 minutes. And I'll tell you, I went on the day after Rodney King got beat. That's my anniversary.
92.
The day after Rodney King got beat, I'm on stage at a little club in the Valley. And it's so funny because it was a shopping center that Cheech and I had invested in at one time. Rodney King had just happened. So I did a bit about Rodney King, about how mothers, doesn't matter what their sons are on television for, they're very proud that their son's on TV.
He's like, yeah, my God.
And so I said, and so the mother of the cop, did you see my son? No, he was the one that was beating him. He was the one that was beating him. Yeah. Yeah.
We're so
Yeah,
proud.
that's my son. Yeah. And I guess I didn't really monitor that. But after, right, so just no more than finish that bit, then some guy goes, hey, where's Cheech?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure you still hear that,
Where's Cheech? And it brought me back down to earth,
Uh-huh.
And then I hooked up with Paul Reiser's manager, Arthur. Yeah. Arthur was going to, he manages Paul. And so I figured, I need a manager, And so I hired Arthur. And so the first thing Arthur told me, I was wearing a sports jacket, I was going to be like Lenny or like a dress nice, And the first thing he told me, he said, lose the sports jacket, go back to the blue jean shirt and the headband, because you're Chong. Yeah, you're Chong. You're not going to be able to hide that, so might as well embrace it. And I like that, that worked out nice. But the first gig he got me, I'm fucking headlining. Told Arthur, man, I barely have 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
Oh, God. And
so I went to the club, and the club's got full page spread on me.
Oh, God, hell.
The calendar section with the double, and then people lined up to see the Chong. And so I did my 10 minutes. And there was 2 shows, and so I did my 10 minutes, and so they had to put the other comics on right away again to cover up my time, and then I had another show to do, and so I'm sitting in the broom closet trying to write a show. And of course, when you're under pressure like that, you end up doing that. Then I ended up going. It was on a tour. Then I ended up going to Clearwater, Florida, where there's 3 or 4 all comedians, hanging out, all the same ones in the same club. And so then I started, getting a bit here, bit there. And then Pee Wee Herman got busted for jerking off
in Florida. Yeah.
and then all of a sudden I got Pee Wee Herman in my act.
Yeah, he went to jail and gifted every comedian in America like 15 minutes of material.
Yeah,
it was his parting gift to the comedy world.
Exactly. So
that's
so
hilarious.
that's some good memories. That was really good memories. Now, but I had a trick. I still do it now. When I'd leave the hotel room, I would say, okay, I'm going to just remember coming back to this room, because then the show's over. I've done the bit. I've done my work. I'm walking back into the room, and it really helped.
Yeah,
it really. I use that with a dentist too. When you go to the dentist, I just picture myself leaving the dentist's office, and then next thing you know, right, I picture this. I'm leaving. You know what I mean? You mess with time, and then what happens in between? Well, that's immaterial. But you just remember them.
So many of our emotional outcomes can be controlled by how we think of things. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Mental discipline. I can't imagine you struggling as a solo comedian because you're such a great wreck on tour. And I know that the audience was probably like just wanting to ask you questions and talk about this and that. So
no. People, comedians were like heroin.
Yeah.
And the audience are junkies.
Right.
And so if we don't have the right brand for them to get them off, but it doesn't take a lot. Especially if they like you. And that's the main thing. If they like you, they find something about you to like. Mm-hmm. Then you're okay. And that's what they liked about Kennison, because he didn't give a shit, and so everybody related to that. It's sort of like Trumpies.
Yes,
it's like the Trump fan
followers.
They're like Kennison fans.
Yes,
no matter what he did, no matter who he talked about or whatever, you loved him because he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
And that's why Trump was so popular in the beginning, because they thought, well, at least this guy's a fucker, but he doesn't lie about it. At least he admits it,
Yeah.
And then you find out, no, he's the biggest liar that ever walked the earth.
And that's an old American story, whether it's a preacher or, an a televangelist, or Huey Newton. No, not Huey Newton. Huey Long. We've seen these characters in the American story over time, in various incarnations. I always felt watching Trump that he just reminded me of a desperate middle act on the road for attention and not much material and very shallow, and the full force of this personality.
All of that.
Yeah.
All of that. Then he'd make faces, and because he loves the attention,
right.
And he gets the audience, and then he goes off on tangents like comedians do.
Yeah, he's just addicted to. I mean, the thing I get the most about Trump is, because I understand it in myself, is he needs a stage time. Like, you run for office, you get the stage time. Guess what? Being president is kind of a drag, but campaigning, you get that stage time.
He loves this applause when he walks out there. And then he's got thousands of people. That's why he feels that he won the election. How could I look at all these people that love me? The only way that Biden could win was that he had to cheat, because look how many people love me.
Right.
They'll come out and they'll risk their lives. They'll risk their lives. They'll not wear a mask, the pandemic,
Well, that's a question. I have a question for you then. Do you think he's insanely delusional on the basis of what you just said? Of course I won. Look at the crowds. Or he's this incredible grifter who knows it and is trying to raise money for all the debts that he's going to be facing and all this other crap that's coming his way.
Well, that's his talent. His talent is getting money out of people, and not in a normal, legal, healthy way. No, his thing is that I fooled you. You think I like you, but I don't. That's was his thing. You think that I need you, but I don't. But inside, he's been rejected by everybody, especially his father.
Yes.
And so he'll never feel good about himself ever.
Yeah.
Because it's ingrained.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is about Trump, he knows himself better than anybody else, and so that's why he can't help himself. He really is that comedian that can't get off the stage. He doesn't want to get off the stage because he just up there. He doesn't have to live with himself. You see, when he's alone, he has to live with himself. And he's smart enough to know his failures and his weaknesses. And his weaknesses, like the way he treats women, the way he treats everybody, the way he bullies people, because it's the most cowardly inside. He has such a negative opinion of himself. That's why he's always confessing.
Yeah, he
commits crimes. He confesses.
Right, he's like Raskolnikov.
Away with it.
Yeah, he's the crime and punishment.
And so then, if a woman goes with him, then it's their fault, because it's no secret that he's a piece of shit.
Right.
And yet you're still with me. So no matter what I do to you, it doesn't matter. And that's what same as his kids. Yes. Like when Don Jr. tried to hug him, just a simple hug, and Trump just, no, get away from me, you creep. He has no respect for anybody who likes him. He has tons of respect for people that know him and don't like him. Like Biden, for instance. Mm-hmm. He was the one that picked Biden. Biden never... The reason Biden won was because Trump told the world that Biden is the only guy that could beat him. And he was right.
He was right. He's at once completely dishonest and totally transparent at the same time. Nixon was very dishonest, but it was in the shadows. It was in the dark. And
it was alcohol induced with Nixon.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up, I don't know what it is with Trump. I don't think it's any kind of a thing. No, it's just himself.
Yeah,
it's just himself. And it's mental. It's mental, physical, but it's also ordained. Don't forget, Trump was Nostradamus predicted Trump, and who else?
Shakespeare.
No, the cartoon, that's on.
The
You know,
Simpsons? The
the
Simpsons?
Simpsons. Simpsons predicted Trump. They even had a bit about it. There's a lot of people that predicted Trump that was going to come in and do it, but Nostradamus was the main one. He said like a devil is going to come
Right.
in.
Well, then ultimately
take over.
it's not so much about Trump as it is about us as a society, as a culture, about how this could happen in amongst us. It's
Well, yeah, it's a truth purveyor. People really believe what they hear, and that the reason Trump has so many supporters is that that's the number of people that don't want to hear real news.
yes.
That don't want to hear. They want to live in that bubble. They want to live in that make believe world that they made. That Trump made. He made his own rule. That's why he'll hang with perverts and he'll hang with these people. He understands them. He understands. Like that whole Epstein gang.
Oh, see,
Look at them.
Yeah, the guy.
Clinton.
Yeah.
Clinton is one of them. Clinton. Bill Clinton's one of them.
Yeah, young women for sale. Yeah, love for sale.
Alan Dershowitz. These guys, and then who's the latest lawyer that got caught jerking off on TV?
Giuliani. Wait, just Giuliani was
not Giuliani.
Lawyer. Oh yeah, the Tubin. No, Tubin. Yeah, but you got to be that's just basic. Turn off your camera. Come on, everybody should know that. Erase your hard drive. Come on.
I know, but what compels these people to go there? Pee Wee Herman is a great example. Now, what brought Pee Wee to ruin a career?
All I know is if you start convicting guys for jerking off, the prisons are going to be filled, okay? They're going to be, there will be no space left in any penitentiary, and I will not be here. I'll be in jail, I can tell you that.
No, but you jerk off, but it's like picking your nose. There's a way and a place to do it, but you don't do it in front of everybody, or else they're going to nail you for it. I mean, I have that life. I mean, how many actors, like Rock Hudson was a good example. I mean, he lived a double life until he did all his movies, and then when he got AIDS, then then he could finally come out, and it's so sad, and it's our growth. But we're growing as a civilization, like Pee Wee, for instance. Pee Wee Herman, I discovered him in The Groundlings, and I put him in a movie, and then next thing you know, he's Pee Wee Herman. He got his own show and everything, but it was Paul Rubens. Pee Wee was the character,
right?
And Paul was really the guy behind it. But why do you take chances with your career? It's, I don't know.
It's just a little piece of trivia. Paul Rubens, a.k.a. Pee Wee Herman, he was in a documentary I saw. His father was a war hero in the battle for Israeli independence. As an American veteran who was a pilot, they recruited him back to Israel in 1948, and he flew missions that created the state of Israel. His father...
Is he Jewish? Is he Jewish?
Yeah, his father's a war hero. Well, the Israeli army recruited Jewish flyers, people that might be sympathetic.
I never thought about Pee Wee being Jewish.
Yeah, his father was a World War II pilot who was recruited back into the Haganah, the IDF. Sure. And they trained them on these planes they could scrap together with baling wire and duct tape in Czechoslovakia. They got him over to Israel or Palestine to hold off the Egyptians, and they saved the state. So
wow,
that's Pee Wee Herman. That's his dad. He lives, that's in his soul. That legacy is in his soul.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so amazing, man. I did a movie in Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm back there. And the thing about Portugal, at least where I was, is that it's still old and there's the buildings and the mansions and all that. They're there and they're crumbling. They're untouched. Portugal is a very untouched place, very hip, very beautiful, but untouched. And so you see the history, like the Moors.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Moor castle there
Yeah.
that had been there 2,000 years. So when you look at our history and the buildings that we built, humans built, I mean, we've got a beautiful history. Oh, incredible. And there's always been rich, wealthy people and poor ass, dirt poor people. And that's the way it's always going to be. And that's the nature of the thing here. No, what we can do, we can help when we can, our neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I found out in the Bible, is that you got to help your neighbor, and your neighbor could be a palm tree, a fruit tree, a lawn, a desert, where we're living. In other words, be aware of how really lucky you are to be aware of where you are. You know what I'm saying?
And to be alive.
I mean, to be alive. Lucky to be alive at this particular time. And it doesn't matter what time it is. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, I saw this when I was in high school. You see the things in all those sperms. Like, it's harder to become a human being than it is to get into Harvard. I mean, didn't we talk about the numbers? So just to be alive, you're in the winner's circle, right now.
That's what I'm saying. You're chosen.
Yeah.
You were chosen.
You're in the winner's circle, pal.
And the thing is, it's eternal. It never ends. And think about this: all the sperm that never made it will eventually make it. Will eventually make it.
Most of them in my right hand, but
that's what eternity. That's what eternity means.
Yeah.
Eternity means that everything lasts. I mean, we have our cycles and that, but eventually that sperm that never made it a zillion times, that one time,
he will make it. Well, that's a very hopeful imagining, I think, of our universe and our world. And I want to, in this moment we're in, I want to end on a hopeful moment. This internal cycle that we're in seems like an appropriate off-ramp for this incredible conversation, Tommy. I so appreciate it.
I love it, and I've always admired you, Bill. I've always had this, the whole Calmaston family are so special.
Oh,
there's a special, I mean, every one of you, and now Jake and
Leah,
they're coming.
Leah's blowing up. I mean, she's like 10 trillion likes, so I can't even keep up with it.
I know, and it's our family. And I went and played golf with Jim. And Jim's getting to be a really good golfer, man.
Oh yeah.
And and Valerie and the whole Calmaston clan, Howard, and your mom, and everybody is just such a special place. Well, that was, I was put here really to find people like you. That really is my job, because they asked me, what made you get into comedy, what made you direct a movie, what made you play music with Motown, all these things, and the answer is that I'm not good at one thing, but I'll try anything. and that's all you need to do. You just need to try. And the other thing too is, and I do cameos a lot too, and I get a lot of requests for people, especially during the pandemic. Give me some really, really good words of advice, how to live, what to do, and everything. And so I tell people, and we'll end with this: is that, in fact, I told I got a little camera crew now from the TikTok people, and we liked them so much we hired them, and they're doing some promos for me. But I told them the secret for happiness: if you want to change anything, but especially yourself, if for some reason you're feeling depressed, angry, lonely, pissed off, left out, any of those negative feelings, all you have to do is change your thought, because you can't think two thoughts at the same time. And the most positive thought in the universe, as far as I can see, is the word God. because every religion ultimately worships God. Now they have different paths, different routines, different social things, but the word God is the most powerful word. It's the word that you use when you swear on the Bible. It's the word that can put you in prison if you tell a lie. It's the word that will change your life forever if you really want the change. The easiest way to do this, now there's meditation, people meditate, there's people that do all sorts of things. That's their road, that's their trip. But for us laymen, for us simple people, all we have to do is change our mind, just our mind. It's the easiest thing to do. And so when you're thinking a negative thought, move that thought out and replace it with God. Put God in there. And you can do it with a prayer. You can say, oh, God, help me. Or what I do all the time, I always say, God, where's my phone?
and you find it.
And the phone appears or the thought appears. It's that simple. Take it further. God, protect me from this virus. You're protected. God, help me with this business deal. God, be with me. Help me. Tell me what to do. Because what I learned, and I wrote in my book, prayer works. Prayer works so well. It just so works. But you know what the simplest prayer is? You pray for wisdom. That's the simplest prayer. To say, God, give me the wisdom. And we all got a God app. And you just hit that app. And all you have to mention, all you don't have to say it, just think it. And you do that no matter when you run into a situation, say you're at the airlines and there's no more your flight's been canceled or booked, go to God. Just say, God, help me. And next thing you know, they say, oh, we got an opening here. Oh, if you run now, there you go. You catch it. It happens to me. It's the weather stopped it. In fact, here, I'll phone. Okay, yeah, we got one more passenger coming. It works. It works. And like us, this is how, because before we go on stage, we always say a little prayer.
Yes.
Okay, let's help me get this together. Okay. We all have that prayer.
And it's a miracle because it works, at least in show business.
It works. It works for everything.
Yeah.
Everything, because that's our secret. That's what makes us so special. That's why we are eternal beings, you see. And the reason we're here is to behold the majesty of the universe. Because without us, this universe does not exist.
That's how I felt about Malibu. I said, God's showing me that wave. Now it's up to me to go surf it.
That's right.
And I did. Right. And I do. And I did yesterday. Tommy.
Good for you there.
Thank you, brother. I love you.
Okay.
You're just one of the greatest of all time. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks.
We'll do it again.
Let's do it again. We'll make a habit of it. I love it. I'll see you real soon, brother. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Take care. Bye, Tommy. So there you have it, folks. A deep dive, pipe dreaming with the great Tommy Chong. Really one of the great people of all time. And I'm so happy you could hang with me, folks. Till next time, namaste, shalom, and aloha. By that I mean, namashaloha.